Hello everyone, so today we're going to go over section 2.0, types of graphs. We'll begin by looking at the quadratic function y equals x squared, example 1a. So in order to graph this, we will have some x values. So let's say, for example, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. So those are x values, and our corresponding y values will be 9, 4, 1, 0, 1, and 4. And the graph is already plotted, and we can see the points -3, 9, -2, 4, -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, and finally, not on the table of values, but 3, 9. And of course, we would know this as a parabola. Okay, and just a quick note on this domain and range. The domain of this graph is x is an element of the real numbers, and the range is that y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so the reason why this section exists is to look at the different graphs that we'll encounter throughout this course. So we likely have seen the parabola before, but the next one, the cubic function, may be a little bit more unfamiliar. So again, we set up some x values here, -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And we have to take -2 cubed, which will give us -8. -1 cubed is -1. 0 cubed is 0. 1 cubed is 1. And finally, 2 cubed is 8. So again, we have the points already plotted and the graph made as well, starting with -2, -8, -1, -1, 0, 0, 1, 1, and 2, 8. And this is once again a cubic function. Its domain is that x, pardon me, x is an element of the real numbers, and the range y is is an element of the real numbers as well. Okay. So continuing on, the next graph is the square root function. So this time we're going to set up the x values a little bit differently. We'll go with 0, 1, 4, 9, and those are the only ones we need. So the square root of 0 is 0, the square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 4 is 2, and finally the square root of 9 is 3. And you can see these 4 points are already plotted and the graph is already made. The domain and range of this graph, x, as we can see, is greater than or equal to 0, and also y is greater than or equal, y is greater than or equal to 0 for the range. Okay, next is a bit of a different graph. We have a semicircular graph, y equals to the square root of 25 minus x squared. So this one, again, let's set up some x values, -5, maybe 0, and 5. So if we were to substitute in -5 into this function, -5 squared is 25, 25 minus 25 is 0, and of course the square root of that is 0. Likewise, if we substitute in 0 in for x, 0 squared is 0. 25 minus 0 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. And finally, when we substitute in x equals 5, we get y equals 0 as well. So these are the 3 points that were plotted and the graph was made. Okay, so a related graph to the semicircle graph that we have here, which is a function, is x squared plus y squared equals to r squared, which is something that we will look at later on in this course. And this makes a circle with radius r. But it is not a function. And if the terms were rearranged and solved for y, and only kept the positive square root, then we will have this semicircular graph as we do right now. The domain and range of this graph, the domain is that -5 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 5. And the range is between 0 and 5. Okay. So a couple more to look at. The next graph is the absolute value function, y equals to the absolute value of x. Okay, once again, we will set up some x values, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and so forth. And then the y values corresponding would be 3, 2, 1, 0, 1, 2, and this is how we have the points as plotted on the graph to the left. And the domain and range of this, the domain is that x is an element of the real numbers, and the range is y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, finally, the last graph for today is the reciprocal function, y equals 1 over x. This one is a little bit different, so let's set up with 0, 1, -1, 2, -2, and a couple of extra points to make it make more sense. So the reciprocal of 0, 1 over 0, that will be undefined. As you can see, there's no point where x is equal to 0. The reciprocal of 1 is 1. Likewise, for -1 is -1. 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. 1 divided by -2 is -1/2. And then 1 divided by 1/2 is 2. And 1 divided by -1/2 is -2. And you can see here, we can see here these points are plotted to make the graph. So an important feature of this graph is that it has two asymptotes. Both x equals 0 and y equals 0. So here is the line x equals 0, and here's the line y equals 0. So asymptotes. And later on in the course, we will talk more about how these asymptotes are formed and what some of their special properties are. But for now, we're just going to look at the domain and range of this graph. Notice that x cannot be equal to 0, and y cannot be equal to 0. Okay, so that's it for today. A review of some graphs that we may have seen from before, and introduction of some new ones, just a basic introduction. So thank you for listening, and that's it.